It was supposed to be a perfect summer day, the kind of day where the sun feels a little warmer, the air smells like popcorn and cotton candy, and laughter echoes between carousel music and game stalls. Evan Blake held his daughter's tiny hand as they walked into the carnival, her favorite place. 5-year-old Leia was bubbling with excitement, her blue eyes wide with wonder, as she pointed at the Ferris wheel, the juggling clowns, the pony rides. She begged for cotton candy, and he gave in. Blue, of course. Always blue. She stuck out her tongue and giggled every time it turned a deeper shade. Evan never imagined that would be the last moment of pure joy they would share for the next 14 years. 1 second, she was there. The next, gone. The memory was a blur. A spilled drink, a balloon vendor blocking his view, a loud whistle, and then silence. Panic spread like wildfire through his chest as he called her name over and over, running between stalls, asking strangers, screaming until his voice cracked. But Leia had vanished, just like that. No witnesses, no clues, just a missing child poster, and a father whose world had collapsed in a single heartbeat. Police searched. Volunteers combed the area. Flyers were printed. Local news ran the story for a few days, but like all things, the world moved on. Except Evan. He couldn't. He refused to. Years passed. Seasons changed. But Evan never stopped looking. He moved cities, changed jobs, lost friends, but never lost hope. He carried Leia's photo in his wallet, her chubby cheeks, her little smile with blue cotton candy in her hand. He replayed that day in his head every night, hoping he'd remember something new, something he missed. And then, 14 years later, it happened. It was just another ordinary day. Evan was walking past a community board outside a small bookstore in a quiet part of town. Lost pets, guitar lessons, house cleaners. Nothing unusual until his eyes landed on a poster. It was a flyer for a traveling circus. Draven's Mystique Carnival, 1 night only. A faded group photo of the performers stood in the corner, and there, barely visible, was her. The world seemed to stop. The sounds around him dulled, and his knees went weak. He stepped closer, his eyes locked on the girl in the photo. Her hair was longer now, her face older, but those eyes, those unmistakable blue eyes. It couldn't be, but deep down, he knew it was her. Leia. Evan tore the flyer from the board and clutched it like it was gold. Questions swirled in his mind. How? Where had she been all these years? Was she safe? Did she even remember him? He rushed home, heart pounding, and started making calls. Police, missing persons, agencies, anyone who would listen. Most dismissed. Him. Could be someone who just looks like her, they said. After so long, it's probably not the same girl. But Evan couldn't ignore what he felt in his bones. That girl was his daughter. He found out the carnival was scheduled to perform the following night on the outskirts of a nearby town. He didn't hesitate. He packed a bag, called his friend Sam to look after things while he was gone, and drove all night as he pulled into the makeshift carnival grounds. Everything looked normal on the surface. Bright lights, painted tents, families laughing, children running around with sticky hands and glowing toys. But something about it all felt off, like a beautiful mask, hiding something darker underneath. Evan wandered through the crowd, scanning every face. Performers twirled fire. Dancers in feathered costumes moved through the aisles. And a ringmaster with a sharp grin welcomed guests in a booming voice. But Evan was looking for one face, one girl, one miracle, and then he saw her under the dim glow of a lantern, helping a child adjust his costume backstage, stood a girl with long dark hair and the same blue eyes he saw in that photo. She looked calm, focused, almost like she belonged there. Evan's breath caught in his throat. He took a step forward, but stopped. What if he was wrong? What if approaching her scared her? What if she didn't remember him? Or worse, what if someone had made sure she forgot? As he stood frozen, torn between fear and hope, a shadow stepped between them, a man in a dark coat, whispering something to her before leading her away into a tent marked Performers Only. Evan's heart pounded as the tent flap closed. Behind them, something was very wrong here. And he wasn't leaving without answers. What happened to Leia during those lost years? Who were these people? Why was she with them? And would she remember the man who never gave up on her? The carnival. Lights flickered in the distance, and Evan knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Evan didn't sleep that night. He stayed parked across the street from the carnival, eyes fixed on the tent where he last saw her, the girl who looked like Leia. Every instinct in him screamed it was her. But the way she moved, the way she acted, it wasn't the carefree child he remembered. There was something guarded in her eyes, trained, almost rehearsed. The carnival opened again the next evening, and Evan returned, blending in with the crowd. He wandered between the booths, pretending to admire the illusions, the contortionists, the fire breathers. But really he was watching, waiting, tracking the man in the dark coat, the same one who had led the girl away the night before. His name, Evan overheard from a passing performer, was Robert Draven, owner of the carnival. Evan's gut twisted. There was something off about him. Too polished, too controlled. He never smiled with his eyes. And the way the performers moved around him, with quiet fear and forced respect, told Evan this wasn't just a traveling show. Something darker was hidden behind the lights. Hours passed. Just when Evan thought he might have imagined everything, she appeared again, this time on stage. Introduced as Aria, she danced in the center of a dazzling act, spinning gracefully under the spotlight. The crowd clapped and cheered, but Evan barely breathed. It was Leia. Older, yes. Changed, definitely. But every move, every expression, held pieces of the daughter he lost. His heart ached with a mix of awe and sorrow. What had they done to her? After the show, Evan waited near the performer's exit. He wasn't sure what he'd say if she walked by. I'm your dad. What if she didn't remember him? What if approaching her put her in danger? Before he could decide, someone tapped his shoulder. A young boy, maybe 10, held out a folded piece of paper. You're looking for her, he whispered. I've seen you. The boy slipped the paper into Evan's hand and ran off before he could respond. Evan unfolded it. Inside was a simple message, written in shaky handwriting. She doesn't know who she is, but she dreams about the blue candy. His heart skipped a beat. Someone inside the carnival knew. Someone was trying to help. The next day, Evan found an old friend from his past investigations, Sam, a former reporter turned private investigator. He showed her the photo, the flyer, the note. She didn't hesitate. I'm coming with you, she said. Something's not right here. Together, they began digging. Records of the carnival's past were scattered. No real paper trail, no consistent location, but whispers from towns they'd visited told similar stories. Young performers who appeared suddenly, older ones who vanished without explanation. It was like the carnival moved through the cracks of the system, always one step ahead of suspicion. Then, they found something that changed everything. A missing child case from 7 years ago. A girl named Mina. last seen at a different carnival. Her photo bore a chilling resemblance to one of the tightrope performers at Draven's show. But the girl in the carnival now had a new name, a new past, just like Arya. Sam and Evan took this to the police, who finally agreed to send an undercover unit to observe. But even then, they warned Evan, without solid proof, there was only so much they could do. Meanwhile, Evan returned to the carnival one last time, blending into the crowd as always. But this time he came prepared, with Lia's childhood photo in his pocket and a small voice recorder hidden in his shirt. He didn't know what he was going to say. He just knew he had to speak to her. He got his chance near the food tents. She was alone, fixing her costume, her face tired but focused. Evan stepped forward slowly. "Excuse me," he said gently. "Do you like cotton candy? The blue kind?" She blinked, confused. "Why?" "You once said it tasted like blueberry." "Clouds," he said, pulling out the photo and handing it to her. She stared at it, eyes wide. Her fingers trembled as she traced the little girl's face. Something shifted in her expression. Recognition. Confusion. Pain? I don't remember this," she said quietly, but her voice cracked. "That's you," Evan whispered. "You're my daughter. Your name is Lia Blake. You were taken from me at a carnival 14 years ago." Her eyes filled with tears, but before she could respond, a sharp voice called out from behind them. "Arya, what are you doing?" It was Draven. His tone wasn't loud, but it was sharp, dangerous. Arya, Lia, jumped like she'd been burned. She slipped the photo into her sleeve without thinking, eyes wide with fear now. "I'm sorry," she murmured, stepping back. Draven approached, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Come," he said calmly, eyes never leaving Evan. "There's work to do." And just like that, she was gone again. But something had changed. Evan saw it in her eyes. A crack had formed in the wall, and now that she'd seen that photo, now that she'd heard her real name, he knew she'd start asking questions. That night, police quietly arrested Draven, under suspicion of identity fraud. But they couldn't hold him long without further evidence. Sam warned Evan that they needed more proof of manipulation, of Lia's abduction, of what was happening behind the scenes. The pressure mounted. They needed answers, fast, and the only person who could give them now was Lia herself. But would she trust him in time? Or would the memories he was fighting to awaken only push her further away? The next few days felt like walking a tightrope over fire. Evan barely slept. Every hour that passed felt heavier, like time was racing against him. Lia was close. He could feel it, but still locked inside a world built on lies. Draven was released the day after his arrest, lack of solid evidence giving him just enough room to slip away. And when Evan returned to the carnival grounds the next morning, it was gone, vanished overnight. No trucks, no tents, no trace, just flattened grass where the stage once stood. Evan stood frozen, heart sinking into the pit of his stomach. After 14 years, she'd slipped away again. But this time, not completely. He had something he didn't have before, hope, and someone else had seen it too, Lia. That night, Evan sat in the motel room, staring at the childhood photo of his daughter, when a soft knock echoed at the door. Sam looked up, confused. "Are you expecting someone?" He shook his head and opened it cautiously. There she was, standing in the hallway, wearing a hoodie pulled low over her face, was Lia. Arya. Her eyes met his, wide and filled with 1,000 emotions, fear, confusion, pain, but beneath it all, recognition. "I didn't know where else to go," she said. Voice trembling. I think I remember you. Evan's heart stopped. He stepped aside silently, letting her in. That night became the turning point. It took hours, even days, for Laya to open up fully. Draven hadn't just hidden her past. He'd rewritten it. With hypnosis, staged memories, and fear-driven obedience, he'd kept her locked in a false life. But cracks had been forming for years. Dreams she didn't understand. Flashes of blue, cotton candy, the sound of laughter she couldn't place. The photo Evan gave her broke the illusion. With the help of trauma specialists, memory therapists, and Sam's relentless dedication, Laya slowly began to piece her real identity back together. Every remembered moment, her favorite blanket, the songs Evan sang, the way he used to let her stir pancake batter, stitched the torn pieces of her past back into something whole. Meanwhile, authorities deepened their investigation. Laya's testimony became the missing key. Other victims came forward too. Young performers who had lived under different names, each one manipulated in similar ways. One by one, the truth unraveled. Interpol flagged the Carnival's equipment in a port city days later. Draven had tried to flee the country again. This time, he didn't get far. His arrest sent waves through media and law enforcement. The truth behind Draven's Mystique Carnival was finally exposed. A traveling web of psychological control, identity manipulation, and exploitation masked behind glitter and lights. It shocked the nation. Laya's story made headlines. Girl vanished. At Carnival found 14 years later, helped bring down international cult-like operation. But to Evan, none of that mattered as much as seeing her smile again. Genuine, real, and hers. As weeks turned into months, life slowly began to resemble something normal. Evan and Laya moved into a quiet home outside Portland. She enrolled in a trauma recovery program and took art classes, something she'd always loved as a child. They'd go for long walks in the evenings, talk about everything and nothing, learning how to be father and daughter again. It wasn't perfect. Healing never is. But they had each other now, and that was more than enough. Sam remained close, too. What had started as a desperate investigation had become something deeper. The bond between her and Evan only grew stronger, built not just on shared pain, but also on shared hope. And Luke, her son, quickly took to Laya like a protective little brother, often declaring, "Now we're a team." One afternoon, Laya asked Evan, "Did you ever give up? When you couldn't find me?" He looked at her, quiet for a moment. "I came close," he admitted, "but there was always this voice in me that said you were still out there. I didn't know how or where, but I knew I had to keep looking. You were always worth the fight." She smiled, eyes shining with tears. "Thank you for not stopping." The story of Laya Blake became more than just a mystery solved. It was a story of love that never gave up, of identity lost and reclaimed, and of light breaking through even the darkest corners. It reminded people that no matter how far someone disappears, no matter how much time passes, the truth always finds a way to surface. And so, after 14 long years, the girl who vanished at the carnival finally came home, not just to her father, but to herself.